Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is International Master Bidney Chang with you once again, and I'm sorry for the late upload. It's been I think a few days, but I've had exams and kind of been studying, so it's been kind of brutal here. But today we're going to talk about Hikaru Nakamura, and actually, it's kind of funny I'm talking about him because he actually won his game again today against David Howell. Uh, so he's on a 2-game winning streak, and the game we're going to talk about actually is going to be his game against Fishy Anand from yesterday. Not yesterday, but from 2 days before actually. And as you can clearly see, he's in the lead. And the only person who's actually close by is Magnus Carlsen. But the interesting is because someone always has to take a bye every single round. The number of games that each player plays is not the same. So, for instance, Vladimir Kramnik and Luke McShane, even though they're 2 points behind, they play one last game. So there's a big chance that they can actually overtake Hikaru Nakamura. But it's quite difficult because Hikaru has played all the top players already. He's played Magnus Carlsen, he's lost him. He beat Vishy Anand. I think he beat Levon Aronian, and he also drew Vladimir Kramnik. And today he just beat David Howell, so he's on a roll, and he has a very good shot of actually just winning this tournament. Before we get started, I'm just going to mention that he's actually 2 times U.S. champion. I actually didn't really read all this stuff, but he's very good on ICC, and ICC is the program that I'm using, and this is actually his name. So let me just type in his name here, just for all you guys who don't know yet. Oh, I think my internet just kind of broke. Okay, well that's not that important because I think this should be fine. Yes, so that should be okay. So yeah, so he likes to play for the win a lot, and he's actually a very strong blitz player online. And if this works, well, this thing works, then we can see his rating. But unfortunately, we can't. Oh, maybe I try this. Sometimes IC has this problem. Okay, so there you go. Kaplan Bridge, and these are his ratings. He has highs in a few of them. I think 1 minute is a high. I think 5 minutes, 29.55 might be high as well. So he's a very accomplished blitz player. And until recently, he actually wasn't that famous around the entire chess world because he hasn't really accomplished all that much until very recently. And I'm talking about the first Super GM Tournament Championships. So I think he won Wilkin Z, and this is actually a very famous tournament that's held every year. And basically a lot of strong players play, and if you win this tournament, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a great year because you can get tournament invites, and people are gonna want you to go to their tournaments, invite you, and you can become very famous. And this is what happened to him. He won it this year, I think, 2011 or 2010. No, okay, so this is 2011 actually. This is this year. So he won the Tata Steel Grandmaster 8 tournament, and since then he hasn't actually had some great results. And this London Chess Classic might be the first great result since the Wilkin Z, because his FIDE rating actually has went down quite a bit. So his rating has been 2777. I think this is his highest, and now it's a bit lower. It's like 2760 or something like that. We can just check really quickly. 2758. So he dropped a few points, but otherwise he's still pretty good. Let me just check how I'm doing on time. Okay, so that's only 341. Okay, so I'm gonna try to move through this game relatively quickly because this has been covered a lot online. And if you guys still haven't found out what sites, I can definitely point you towards those sites, and you can see those video commentary with the players themselves. So let's take a look at. So I'm going to first reverse the board. Reverse board. That is not right. Okay, so fortunately, I'm going to have to. Wow, that was kind of dumb. Okay, so I'm going to just open a new window here, lib list, and let's see here. Anand versus Kramnik. Examine. Flipboard. Flipboard. So it's on flipboard. Because I know there's a command here that allows you to flip board, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So unfortunately, we can just have to make do with what's happening here. So this whole thing is actually the King's Indian, and knight f6 is a very flexible move order. It allows black to play either e6, which is it can be the Nimzo or the Queen's Indian. c5, this is usually transposed to a Benoni or a Banco Gambit, and this is a Benoni. And you can also just play c6 to make into a Slav, which is very solid. It's probably the most solid system out there because the pawns are symmetrical, so black really has no fear of white taking over the center. The opening that Nakamura uses actually is the King's Indian, and this is a very hyper modern strategy in that you don't use your pawns to control the center as white has done. You actually use your bishop to, well, not as bishop, let me just flow a bit. You not only use your pawns, but your pieces to control the center. And as we can see a bit more, black basically just relinquishes the center for white, allows white to have a lot of space, and black has to basically make do with this kind of structure. It's very solid, and a lot of times what happens in these kind of lines is that, well, the line that they play actually, is that black is going to try to mate white while white goes for the queen side. And the way you can figure out this kind of plan is the way the pawns are moving. So for example, the pawns are going this way on this diagonal shape, which means that usually what you want to do is you want to attack the place where your pawns are more advanced. And for white, it seems like you can attack both ways, but if black's attacking this way and he's pointing all his forces this way, as we will soon see, then white definitely has to either defend this side with a few ideas, or he just goes for the queen side. Well, this is not right, so there. And the plan that he goes for is actually very standard, and let me just go to analysis, because this is probably going to be easier. And the funny thing is, white at certain points of the game was clearly winning, according to Houdini and other computer engines, but Anand, the world champion, couldn't really figure out what to do in those situations, and sort of made some small mistakes, which allowed Nakamura to get back into the game. And it's actually really impressive because usually, as I've said, if you have like a +2 advantage, it's usually huge, and players of this caliber don't just like lose or draw +2 advantages. They usually win those type of games. So it's quite interesting how this game happened. So b4 is called a bayonet attack. It's just a fancy name. I'm not quite sure why it's called bayonet, but it's called bayonet attack. So knight e8, c5, 5. And oh, I forgot to mention that the normal move I think is knight h5. This is what usually happens, and usually this is what happens. Now here, here, or black can play something like this if he wants, or something like this. But it's usually a bit different than what happens here, because what happens usually is black doesn't get the attack with the bayonet attack. It's usually like a very complex type of middle game, and black doesn't usually get this kind of thing. And when he does go for this kind of thing, it's usually not so good because this kind of line is not quite so strong for black. It's supposed to be not so strong, but I think Nakamura actually, when I looked at his interview, he was saying that he just lost to Carlsen, as you guys remember, and he was feeling very unhappy about it and upset. So I think he just went for the kill here because he figured, no, well, I've lost again to Carlsen, what I've got to lose. So that's why he went for this kind of idea. So this is all very standard. Black's just going for the queen side, king side. White's going for the king side. g5. Okay, the g5 is a bit of a mistake actually. I'm not, well, maybe not a bit of a mistake, but I think rook f7 is usually played. But g5, knight c4, and now the problem is black really wants to play f4. But the thing is, I think there are certain lines that he can't play in this situation, in that f4 doesn't quite work. I'm not quite sure why f4 doesn't work, but I guess, well, as you can see, it's already +1. So I'm just going to follow some of the computer's ideas here and just try to figure out why f4 doesn't work. But I'm not a Keynesian expert, so I'm not quite sure why. But yeah, I'm just not too sure. But anyway, what he did was h6, and this is a mistake. Well, not a mistake, but it's not very fun for black because he basically wasted tempo. Usually what black wants to do is he wants to play f4 and then h5, right? But the thing is, but in this case, you can actually take this pawn, I think, or there's certain aspects that you can do here. But in this case, black has played h6 first. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense to people, but it's a very complex type of game, and I'm just it's not quite my comfort zone, so it's hard to commentate on what's going on right now. So after f3, then black plays f4, because he doesn't want to take on e4, because then you're going to lose the attack. So he has to go for the attack here. And as I've said, take, So basically, giving the c5 square is not very good usually. Usually you want to play knight e8 or something, defend this d6 pawn some more. But Nakamura took this pawn away. Well, it's an interesting idea. So a5 and now h5. So as you've seen, Nakamura played h6 and then h5. So he wasted tempo. And tempos might seem to be, just a move, a free move, doesn't make too much of a difference. But when black is trying to mate white, usually one move is all it takes for a mating attack to happen, or for white to just win, just because black has sacrificed too many pieces and he just can't win. Wow, I don't understand. Okay, I'm gonna keep the clear scheme, don't show the message again. I don't understand why that keeps happening, but yeah, that's kind of annoying. So h5, b6. So basically white wants to open up the queen side, because once he does, then he can basically use those pieces and go in and just push his pawn, and yeah, like this should be relatively easy to win if white can change the pieces off. That's his goal. So black obviously doesn't want to do anything about that. So h5. Okay, so now white is actually forcing black to change on b6. Sorry. So as you can see, Houdini thinks that you can play king h1 or something else and maintain a bigger advantage, but what Anand has played is not bad at all, and these moves are perfectly fine. Take g3. This is okay. So this is very complex, and apparently at this point, Houdini thinks he can just take on a7, and I'm not quite sure if this is the case, but it does seem like this is winning. So yeah, definitely seems like this is winning for white. Oh, but there's certain situations that you have to basically look at, that even though it looks like +4, black always has this kind of sneaky idea, and that if you take here, then go queen h4, and this is the idea actually. So you take sack here, you bring queen here, and then you're gonna mate on h2. As you can see, Houdini just basically took a huge dump on the position, and that's -4, -5, and it's pretty clear to anyone who's watching this that Nakamura will see his only moves, and white will just lose if he goes for this kind of thing. So this is why it's not very wise to trust computer in these type of games. Just too complicated, there's too much stuff going on, and evaluations change so often, all the time. But there are certain cases where I guess this could be useful. But after g3, white played king h1, because you want to basically, if you go for this kind of stuff, right, you want to be able to stop it with bishop g1. You don't want to play h3, because h3 then bishop takes h3, and that just game over usually. That's why white wants to actually eliminate this bishop. So we'll see what happens, but this is what white will usually want to do. So if he takes this guy, you can just go back. Like, you don't have to take this guy. Taking this guy is okay too, probably, but sometimes you just want to leave the pawn there so that it protects your king, and black has no attack, and you just sacrifice the piece as well. So king h1, bishop f8. So he doesn't want to change that bishop. He wants to just play d6 and basically give himself a square here, and here, and just dominate the position. So as you can see, Houdini disagrees with this idea entirely. He thinks they should just take on the fate, but the idea of keeping his bishop is for this idea, and that's why you want to keep this bishop. So yeah, it's quite interesting struggle so far. One move that Houdini thinks rook takes a7, I'm not quite sure about this. I guess it's kind of the same idea, but yeah, this is just very, very complicated, and it's hard to basically talk about who's better in this line. Like, it's clearly, according to Houdini, white's much better, and most of the commentators at this time, when they were live commentating, agree that white was much better. And as you can see, rook takes a7 basically took a dump. It's now 0.92, so it's not so good either. And d6 is actually much better than rook takes a7. So after h6, c7, so he brings his knight here, so rook has to move, and now he brings his knight to a5. So now one of the ideas is just bishop takes a6, so black plays king h8, because if he takes on e6 here, I think there is some kind of like weird stuff here happening. Knight takes, oh, knight d7, very strong. The idea is knight d7, bishop g1 takes. Apparently rook f6 is strong, or knight takes b6. Oh, this pawn's gone. So yeah, so black should be fine here, and after taking this pawn again, black should be okay. And if evaluation changes like this much, then, and if white was winning by a lot before, then usually white's probably not so happy about this kind of line. So that might explain why Anand didn't take it. So he went bishop c4 instead. Because the reason bishop c4 is you want to take this bishop out. So he goes here, and then you go knight e6. Now computers actually were thinking bishop e6. This is probably, I'm not quite sure if this is better, but this definitely seems more safer, trading more pieces off. Because after you take this guy, take this guy, you take this guy. Now you can take this guy if you want, and yeah, this position is very, very good for white. But knight e6, there's nothing wrong with knight e6 either, even though it seems like the computer disagrees with their moves every single time. But knight e6 takes, and now takes on h2. So taking on h2 is an interesting idea, because usually, as I've said, you want to be able to do this and then this. But the problem is the bishop is now gone, and white's bishop is on e6. So you can actually play h3 or just bishop h3, and black is totally busted. So that's why Nakamura decided to play on a different idea. Basically, takes on h2, playing this, and then playing this. This is very slow though, so usually it should not work very well. But here, Anand made a gigantic mistake. Actually, knight c4 was a big mistake. The best move was probably just bishop h3 and keeping this bishop here, guarding this line. And white's is much better, so black is in a whole deep load of trouble. But after knight c4, very strong move here is queen e8, because the idea of bishop h3 doesn't work so well here because of queen b5. And now these pieces are both hanging, and the only move that black can actually play, white can actually play is d7. But after taking this guy, and I think, what do you want to do? Knight g takes or knight d takes? Okay, so I'll take rook takes f8. So after rook takes f8, it's clear to anyone that white basically lost most of his advantage with his pawn being gone. And if you look at the material count, assuming that this pawn is dead, white's actually down a pawn, so it's not quite so good for white. And this would not be so clear, because after queen 8, Anand still wants to play for win, but right now maybe it would have been safer to just have gone for that line. Because after h4, h3 is coming out, and even though it says white's better, this is a very, very tough game to play for white now. Rook f2, h3. So black is just gonna open up the side, bring here, bring here, bring here. Lots of stuff happening here, and this is very, 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 very weird. So rook c8, taking this bishop here. It's just a very strong move because basically it forces white to basically move his bishop away, or keeping the rook here. The problem is white really wants to play something like this, bring the bishop back, defending this square and this square, but he can't because the rook is on f2, and that's why rook c8 is a very strong move here, forcing bishop to not be defended very awkwardly with the rook h5. And after this, it seems like black prefers Houdini prefers black now. After knight h4, takes knight h2, and knight d7. So this bishop is basically not doing so well. Bishop b4, rook g3. Okay, so now there's some tactical threats. Lot of stuff happening here. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff happening. It's queen f1 and queen h5, I think. Yes. Now the idea is, if let's say you play something like, well, I think you played rook a3. The idea is there's some threats of this now, and one move actually very, very strong here was just knight takes b6, and this actually is very, very strong, very, very crushing, because you can't take on b6 because of rook c1, and this is the reason why. If you take this guy, then check, and it doesn't matter which rook you take. Let's say you take this rook, then let's mate, and white just got mate because his queen was the only thing defending h3. So that's a very strong move here, and he played a5. Another move of knight takes b6 is Houdini suggests bishop f7. After takes, I guess I will do rook d8, knight d4, bishop g7. This is still a game, and this definitely would have been preferable to what happened in the game, even though black is better, because he's up a pawn, I think? No, he's not up a pawn, but this pawn looks like it's going to go down, and white's king is still in some danger, even though black's the one with no pawns around his king. It's kind of ironic, actually. But yeah, knight takes b6, and maybe not quite so strong. So a5 is actually, I think a5 is a very strong move, because basically what happens now is after bishop e1, this is the idea for black. He wants to basically eliminate this knight, because this is very strong, attacking this pawn, defending, After taking this guy, then his bishop now comes to the game with a lot of force too, because after rook takes a5, I think the game okay, so Houdini suggests rook e3. This is probably the best move here, but even so, it's a very tough game to defend, because if one just makes like one big mistake, white's lost. And rook takes a5 seems to be kind of weak, but I mean, there's really not much I can say about this. This is a very tough game for Anand to defend, and really it's not his fault that this happened, because it just slowly got really bad. So after bishop c5, Houdini agrees that black is better now, and this is a lot more simplistic position than before. A lot of pieces have been traded off, and it's clear to see that white actually can't move his rook, because once he moves it, then knight takes f3 is basically coming with a lot of force. So after bishop e2, defending this pawn once again. So first he takes this pawn. It's definitely a very safe move. Rook b5. So obviously, you think rook a3 is stronger? So it probably is. Now rook defend this pawn a bit more, but yeah, rook d5, and now go bishop d4. That's actually a bit of a strange move, because I thought that bishop takes f2, and yeah, I was actually looking at this game. Bishop takes f2 was very strong. You know, well, minus 2.8 now. That's very strong, but he didn't do that. It's interesting. After bishop d1. Yeah, so now he took it. So I'm like, what the hell? I don't understand. Because I think he was hoping he would take on b7, but if he takes on b7, then this kind of stuff is just going to come, and oh boy, it's going to be pretty bad. But still, it's not as bad as just taking on f2 right away. So this is kind of strange. Bishop d4 was a kind of a strange move here. It seems like white could have given himself more opportunities with rook d5 or rook takes b7. And Houdini thinks that white does have some chances in this kind of line, but not with bishop d1. And this move definitely basically allowed black to just win. After taking this guy, taking this, and queen takes. And you can't really take this guy because the queen is basically lost here. So rook b1. So now you can, but bring the rook back to g6. Takes b7 pawn, and now knight f6. So now the threat is basically knight g4, and a rook h6 check, and basically rook h1 mate. This cannot be stopped. So white has to check a few times, and here I think he resigned. Yep, that's the game. Because okay, so what would happen now is basically rook b6, 64, takes, and something like queen g1 check, probably king h5, I guess, king h5, and let's say bishop b6, g5, queen g2, and e4, and this would just win because these two connected pass pawns are too strong, and really there's really not much white can do about it. And I mean, Anand probably could have played on and hopefully, you know, maybe swindled on Nakamura and get one of these pawns, or get both the pawns with a bishop sack somewhere, but Nakamura had a lot of time, as you can see, and even though this is not exactly accurate, he had basically an hour more once he reached move 40, and move 40 was basically this. So this is a very like simplistic kind of position for black to play. I mean, black had lots of choices. He was winning here definitely, and Anand was probably just trying to figure out like what to do now. So Nakamura probably did not use too much time, and he probably would have enough time at this moment in time to figure out what to do. And actually, the game actually ended a bit earlier than this. Yes, it ended here. So move 49 after king h6, white resigned, and this is actually about 2 days old. So I apologize for the late upload, but yeah, Nakamura basically beat his first world champion, and I think this is the first scalp of an American player of a reigning world champion for like maybe a long time now. Maybe I think probably since Bobby Fischer. I'm not quite sure when. Maybe even longer than that. But Bobby Fischer would be the one that I would bet on being a world champion while he was still playing chess. But yeah, this is a very impressive game by Nakamura, and his rating is probably going to go up a lot more after this. And one thing I have to mention before going is that you may have noticed that let's see here, let's close this window first, this guy, and okay, so you may have noticed that he has 10 points and he's only played 5 games. So how do you get 10 points with 5 games? Well, the system that they're using actually is kind of interesting, and that if you win, you get 3 points. If you draw, you get 1 point. If you lose, you don't get points. So, where's a way to explain this properly? Okay, so I guess there's not much here, but let's just take an example. Let's say, let's do Nakamura. So he's won 3 games, he's drawn 1, and he's lost 1. Losing 1, 0 points, 1 point, and 3 times 3 is 9, so that's 10 points. And after 5 games, it's 10 points. So basically what this system does is it allows the players to capitalize more on wins than draws. Because if you have 2 draws and a win and a loss, it's essentially the same thing. But under this system, a win and a loss is more impressive than 2 draws, and it would give you more points. And at the end of the day, even though they would basically mean the same thing, if you use the one with more points, that would basically get you the win, right? And in this case, basically, this is a clear example actually. Magnus Carlsen and Nakamura has the same net score here. 2 wins and 3 draws. That's 3.5 out of 5. Hikaru has 3.5 out of 5 as well. But because Hikaru actually won 3 games and lost 1, and only draw 1, well, Magnus Carlsen actually drew 3 games. He has less points, and at the end of the day, Hikaru is leading because of that fact. So that's actually a very important piece of information here for Nakamura, which means that he should try to keep winning, because drawing is probably not such a good idea if he wants to play for the win here. But at the end of the day, though, I think there's only a few more days left. Here, I think it's like 4 days left or something. But yeah, I think Nakamura is probably the favorite here to win now, because I think Magnus Carlsen still has to play Anand. Yeah, he still has to play Anand, and he still has to play 6 and 7 Adams and Short, while Nakamura only has to play basically Adams, Short, and McShane, the 3 London players, and it's probably an easier task than facing Anand, even though Anand has not been playing so well so far. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I will just upload this right now. And thank you very much, and I hope to see you guys soon. Sorry, that was okay. Bye bye. Thank you.